Hey, blue collar millionaires, we have got a special guest for you. It wasn't long ago, I put a post out and asked you guys what your biggest roadblock was that would change your life. And a ton of you guys talked about having employees and hiring. And Matt has got an incredible story of where he started to where he's at now and his business that he has available to the masses at this point to fix that exact problem. So, Matt Larson, appreciate you hopping on the show, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, glad to be here. Love the whole blue collar millionaire crowd. I watch a lot of these posts and stuff, and you guys got a lot of good stuff going here. So, a little bit about me. I've been in real estate for 17 years. I'm a former machine shop worker. When I got into real estate, I had never even bought a house for myself personally to live in, and neither had my parents. I grew up in a small town in Illinois, and just come from a pretty lower class family. And so, I got into, so I got out of high school, didn't really know what I was going to do for sure. Knew I didn't like college. I did try to go to college. I went to college, and after one semester, they told me I couldn't come back. So, so that ended that. And I went to work in a machine shop at a local machine shop in the town I grew up in. And then, the craziest thing happened. I started dating this girl at 26 years old, fell head over heels in love with her. It was really the first time I really fell in love with somebody. And she was outclassed me. She was a doctor, basically a speech pathologist. And I started dating her at 26. We dated for 4 years. And I was not matched up with her financially. She made a lot more money than I did. I come home from work, covered head to toe in grease and dirt, smelling like crap because I've sweated. I worked in a shop with no windows and no air conditioning. So you can imagine what it was like to sweat all day working in those conditions. And so after 4 years, she came to me and she said she wanted to break up. And when I asked her why, she just said, I want to date somebody with status, somebody that makes money. And I'd never really thought about making money before because I'd never really knew that you could make money. I didn't know that you could be an entrepreneur. I didn't know that you could do that type of thing. And keep in mind, guys, this is back before social media was really a thing. And so my heart was broken, and I made a mission. I had to figure out how to make money because my goal was to try to impress this girl and get her back. I was up late one night and saw an infomercial on TV about flipping houses, bought the books. And that's really how I kind of got started. 30 days later, I did my very first deal. And within 3 years, I had made enough passive income to be able to leave my job. So in 2008, I left my job and became a full-time real estate investor. Wow. I had about 30 houses in my portfolio in 2008. And they were cash flowing about $5,000 a month, which paid all my bills. I lived very simply back then, not like I live now necessarily, but then the market crashed in 2008, and I was really set up. I paid my dues during 2005, 6, and 7 during some of the toughest times ever to be able to wholesale properties or buy properties that would cash flow. And I was ready. In 2008, when it hit, I took advantage. A lot of investors got wiped out, and my personal portfolio went from 30 houses to 450 houses in about 4.5 years. And that's not doors; those are properties. Yeah. Some of those were, some apartment buildings, lots of single family homes, duplexes, fourplexes, things like that. And I also wholesaled a lot of properties during that time period as well. And was able to build a lot of cash flow. And so that's kind of where I started. By 2013, I was pretty well set up, and so I bought a lot of houses at the low, and I spent the last 2-3 years selling a lot of properties off to be able to take advantage of buy low, sell high. Mm-hmm. But I think you guys wanted to talk through some virtual assistant stuff, so. Yeah, I can kind of transition into
before you transition real quick. Mm-hmm. What is, I think, would you say that you have a very methodical, systematic mindset? You come from the machine shop. space, and then you moved over into very rapidly scaling. You turned real estate investing into a business.
Yeah. So, and I think Chris, you might be having a couple issues with maybe your
Yep.
camera there. I don't know. I think Kevin maybe jumped off too, but I'll keep going unless you guys tell
Go
me
for it.
to stop. But guys, by the way, Chris, just so you know, I just did a webinar a couple of weeks ago and had the same issues with my camera as well. You just can't control that stuff. But I'm going to keep going. So yeah, so so really, Chris, what happened was, I'm detail oriented to a sense, but I'm not super process and methodical. However, I'm like a visionary, but I hired somebody early on that was massively detail and process driven, and that's really my team. And that's how my team is kind of set up. So yeah, so that's one of the keys to the whole, hiring people and training people, is you have to be set up and be process and methodical thinkers in order to set those people up for success. I'm going to see if I can push my camera back just a little bit here. So I don't know how, and I want you, Chris, you guys is your group better than I do. Feel free to ask me any questions along those and kind of guide the conversation so that we can give people the most possible value that we can.
Yeah, I just think when you move, I'm sorry about the camera situation, guys. That's viewing. I'm not real sure what's happening, but we're going to move forward because the content, you can still hear it. The fact that you had such, here's what I found out when I started my company. I'm into it 5 years now, and we were doubling our revenue, which meant we had to increase our employees. And as we didn't really have a sales issue because I was constantly just posting stuff because we had social media, but the scaling portion of it on the operations, I found it as a huge hurdle. And I can imagine with having roughly 60 properties, what that hurdle would be like to move from where you went to that many properties. I mean, was there a key person, a key hire? And this might transition us into the VA conversation, but how did you start in that structure of your team to be able to handle that many properties, or did you outsource it to a third party?
So let me give you guys an exercise that I did, and this helped me know who to hire to answer your question. What I did was I sat down and I had a mentor teach me this, and it is powerful. I'll try to adjust this a little bit. It is a powerful exercise, and everybody on here should do this exercise. It'll help you pick up very talented people. But what I did was I took out a piece of paper and I drew a line down the center of the paper. And on the left-hand side, I wrote down everything that I did in the course of my day or week or month that was either something that I wasn't good at or I didn't like to do. That was the left-hand side. And typically that list is going to be pretty long. And then on the right-hand side, I wrote down everything that I was good at or I liked to do. And what ended up happening after I got done filling out this piece of paper and I started listing out the things on the right side that I liked to do or I was good at, and the left side that I was not good at or didn't like to do, that left side became my interview sheet for my very first hire. That person was the exact opposite of what I am. And that's really what you want to do when you're hiring somebody. Your first hire, a lot of times, will be the exact opposite of you, because you don't need a bunch more people like you, especially if you're the visionary big thinker on your team. You need somebody that can carry out processes and carry out the dream that you've built for the company that you want to build out.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So I think that's a great transition now at this point into, let's see where your powerhouse has become, because I got to hear your spill about virtual assistants, and Kevin, I know he leans heavily on them and he's built a great team, but there's still a lot out there like myself that still hasn't hired the first virtual assistant and really doesn't know what that experience feels like.
Yeah, so let me start, and let me just say that for everybody on here, that exercise I just explained, I still do that exercise to this day every month.
I believe it.
And it doesn't matter which business I'm building. I have 11 different businesses that I've built out. I do it for every business because it helps me step out and scale the business controllably and in a way that it's profitable. But I guess Kevin, to Chris, to answer your question, virtual assistants. Imagine this. I'm going to give you an analogy for the people because I still get questions. I'll have somebody text me on the side they'll hear me talk about virtual assistant. They'll text me on the side, "Hey man, I'm just curious. The virtual assistant thing, you don't really actually do that, right? That's just something you talk about, like capable of actually doing anything, right?" I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, guys. I would prefer a virtual assistant with American 365 days out of the year, out of 365 days. So here's the thing is, here's what I want everybody on here to understand. And if you can understand this analogy, it'll help you understand how to be successful with VAs. Imagine I'm sitting in front of, so Chris, last week or 2 weeks ago, I had a webinar and it like totally imploded on me. My camera failed and it was miserable. And I decided to go out and buy a brand new Mac computer. Okay. So I got this brand new Mac sitting in front of me. I don't know. I think I paid like $4,000 for it. This computer is the best of the best. It's the best technology you can get, right? It's got all the bells and whistles, all the memory, unlimited, everything, best camera. Imagine I hand this computer off to a computer programmer and I say, go write code and put it into this computer and hit enter. And let's say he takes this computer, he writes code to do a specific operation. He hits go and the computer crashes and it doesn't work. Is it the computer's fault? Did the computer mess up or was it bad code? The answer is it was bad code. The same thing with virtual assistants. If you take a very capable virtual assistant and don't write out a good process that you can hand off to them, they're going to crash. And let me tell you, when they do crash, it's not them is not the problem. It's you. So the real secret to being successful with virtual assistants, and really, guys, any employee you hire, the real key is a well-documented process. If you just hire some virtual assistant and expect them to know how to solve every single problem that comes up, it's just not going to be successful. They don't know. You have to show them. Here's another big difference between an American and a VA. American workers operate out of discretion. Virtual assistants do not use discretion for the most part. Okay, so what that means is you hand an American a task and you say, hey, go do this. Here's the process to do it. American's going to say, I got a better way. I know Matt told me to do it this way, but I'm pretty smart. I got a better way. I'm going to go do it like this. And Americans will use discretion even if it fails, where a virtual assistant will not use discretion. So they short circuit. If you don't give them a good process, they're not going to know what to do and they're going to freeze. So that's an important thing. So you actually, the only way you can build a process to be duplicatable and robotic is to remove discretion from that task. And so that's I like VAs.
Are you figuring out, are you having to learn everything that you're delegating, Matt? Or is there a way to not know something and still be able to delegate it?
Yeah. So we teach. So what we do is whenever we hire on a VA, we build out the processes to be able to teach that VA what to do. I don't hire a VA hoping that they're going to know. Now, I know, Chris, you wanted to talk a little bit later maybe about my VA services that I offer. In that case, that's the opposite. We actually train the VAs in specific tasks, and they come to you ready to go.
Right.
But for the most part, when I started, and I wanted to make a side note, I hired and used VAs in my businesses for 6 years before I ever offered the service to somebody else. And the only reason that so I don't want, like a lot of times I think people think that you create a service just make money. In my cases, it wasn't. I hired my first VA in 2015 out of necessity. I had a pretty decent sized team. I was trying to get something as simple as Craigslist ads being posted every day. And they always, the two girls that I had working in my office, each making $15 an hour. The task was never getting complete. And I finally got frustrated enough. I had read the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. In that book, Tim Ferriss, the author, talked about VAs and how powerful they were. And I hired a VA, and one VA making a few dollars an hour outperformed 2 American workers at $15 an hour each. And I haven't ever thought about that particular task again. It's just robotic and repetitive. So you do want to know how to do the task that you want to hand off. Really what you're doing is you're going to that left side of the paper and you're looking at everything that you do in the course of your week, and you're trying to buy your time back. A lot of entrepreneurs, especially small business entrepreneurs that they're just getting started, or they've been in business for a while and they're frustrated. They've got anxiety. Sunday night hits, their anxiety, and I got to start my Monday again next week. That's all avoidable if you just have something you can hand off each day, each week. You don't have to hand off something a day. You could pick, guys, like what I did, how I got free from my day-to-day business. My wholesaling business has run without me for years. I'm still involved in some of the newer businesses that I operate, and I still operate about 5 hours a week out of my wholesale business. Most of that has to do with a notary coming to my house to sign documents, a Monday morning meeting that I do, a Thursday meeting I do each 30 minutes, and then just keeping an eye on my KPIs. Otherwise, the business runs without me. And that can be the case in a lot of businesses. As long as you can have, so if it's something that, you know, a VA can do any task in a business as long as it's not a boots on the ground task. So when you go to that left side of your page, the things that you're not good at or you don't like to do, you can simply pick one thing a week, take that thing, go build a process. Building a process isn't hard. You can go to a screen capture. You can do it as simple as a screen capture. You could do a Zoom. You could do Screencast-O-Matic. You could do Loom. You could create a video teaching somebody how to do that thing, following along with your mouse and a website, or just talking and speaking the process on how to do it. And then you can hand that process off to somebody else to go learn. You could do that if you did that one process a week for 90 days, you'd have a lot of your time back.
I think that's the problem with most entrepreneurs. I know it was my problem for a while because I would let myself get distracted and I wouldn't get clear on what I wanted a hire to do for me. So instead, I would, like you were talking about, I would allow them to implode because I never onboarded them correctly with training to set them up for success. And it's because I never got clear on really what that process looked like for them, because I was so used to being the cowboy and adjusting to whatever the situation was, instead of having, here is the steps every single time that we do when we encounter this situation. I heard you say this when we were down in Louisiana at Chris Rude's event, and you stated that you give your employees the power to delegate down by redundant task. If they see this as a redundant task, they have the power to go hire a VA to be able to get that off their plate so they can stay at a higher value of task. Explain that a little more. Go into that.
Well, you can do it with one-off tasks as well. Like we use a website. I'm sure you guys, everybody's heard of it. If you haven't, check it out. It's called Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. We use Fiverr.com for one-off tasks. Let's say we have a specific task that we need to do. It's a one-time thing. We just go onto Fiverr, do a search find out who an expert is on that one thing. Everybody in Fiverr has a 5-star review. So if they're ranked 4.8 stars and they have 261 reviews, they're probably pretty good at that thing. It's not like hiring an American worker. When you hire them, they hand you a resume and you don't know if and they are lying, by the way. You don't know if they're lying or not and how good they are. With a website like Fiverr, you get everybody else graded them. So we pick somebody. It's cheap. It's called Fiverr because it's $5. A lot of stuff is a little more expensive than that, $5, $10. But even if I have a task that I need to hand off to one of my top level managers, and that task is going to take them a week to do, and I pay them, let's say $1,000 a week for that, or I can get it done on Fiverr for $100. I'm doing it for the $100 because that saves me $900 employee could be doing something a little higher level. So I 100% give my team the ability and the say so. If I give you a task to do, I don't care who does it. I just want it done. If you can get your task done and farm it out on Fiverr and it comes back to me quicker and cheaper, I'm in. So yeah, so we do that. And then on the other side of the repetitive tasks, 100%, we push that stuff off on virtual assistants because of the arbitrage for cost, right? You know, you can get something done for a few dollars an hour with a virtual assistant. If it's a repetitive task, I don't want my team doing that. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, just like nothing against mowing my grass, but I don't, I mowed my grass once here, I'm on a lake and there's a hill. I didn't like pushing that mower up and down the hill, or I could just hire a service to come and do it for $60. And during that hour it would have taken me, I can go do a task that makes me $1,000. It's a good trade. And the same thing with your time and your staff's time. The number one reason, I'm going to say something pretty important here that I think that everybody should learn from. But the number one reason that entrepreneurs either never scale or burn out and go broke is because they repeat the same exact problems over and over and over again. Yeah. The problem hits their plate. They try to solve it themselves. They try to hand that off without a written or documented process to somebody else. That gets handed off. That person doesn't follow the process. The problem still exists. And then they get mad, angry, get anxiety, get overwhelmed. And eventually, over years, they can't fix the same problems over and over again, and they quit or move on to something different. So you have to have, and let me also mention this, guys. Not every VA is equal. I don't want people to say, "Oh, Matt says VAs are great. I'm going to go out and find a VA, and it's going to be awesome." That's not the case. You have to interview and dial in the people that you hire. If you just hire some Joe Schmo VA just because Matt said VAs are great, you're going to be let down. You have to do your due diligence and make sure. We do so many tests with the VAs that we do a typing test. We do a personality test, probably one of the most important things you can do. We do an English test. We've built all kinds of internal tests and quizzes, and then we give them live leads to test with. We record their calls, and we make sure at the end that this person's going to be able to do the job, and then we hire them. And then if we mess up, and we still will, our process is really good. We don't mess up very often, but it does happen. Some people are really good until you've had them for 2 or 3 weeks. In the odd chance that we do mess up and we hire somebody we shouldn't have, we let them go immediately. Do not allow. And I think that's another problem that the average entrepreneur runs into, because they think, I made a bad hire. I'm going to try to fix this maybe I'll try to pay them more money and they'll work harder. I made a bad hire. He's not listening to me, but I don't have the time to hire somebody else and start the training process over again. That's what happens to people. And then they just put up with mediocrity, and their company's mediocre, their income's mediocre, their outcome's mediocre, their life becomes mediocre, and it's a miserable situation.
How do you know when it's the person or the process?
That's a great question. If it's the person, if the response times are slow, that's one of the first keys. Man, I message you guys. We live in a world where I can go on Amazon and click one button, and I got something at my house tomorrow. Right? I don't care if it's Sunday. When I message somebody, if somebody's world exists on a computer, like we're sitting in front of our computers right now. If you message somebody working for you and it's an hour before they message back, there's what's up? What happened? Like, you live on a computer, right? Yeah. If we message you, we expect a quick response, and we're very clear about that in the interviewing and onboarding process. So slow response times is an immediate indicator you are dealing with somebody that's not deadline motivated, and everything we do has a deadline to it. And if somebody doesn't have a sense of urgency, nothing else behind that works. So that's one of the biggest keys.
I like that. Tell me about your VA service now. So you use them currently.
Mm-hmm.
You've used them in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and you saw the need for it, and you said, "Okay, there's this problem in the market. Let me fix it."
So let me take a step back and tell you how this all came about. So, I was in a mastermind a few years ago, and in 2019, uh, I had built my wholesaling business to the point where, and guys, I've done over 4,000 deals. We're a high volume, hundreds of deals per year average company, and I built my company to the point where I didn't have to be involved, right? And I found myself on the couch a lot, and I was gaining weight. I was really kind of bored, and I was very unproductive. And one of my mentors said, "Matt, you really need to start your own education business." And I'm like, "Man, I don't know if I could, be successful at that." He's like, "Oh, you could be successful. You should just do it." So in 2020, January 2020, I started my own real estate education business. And I sat around for the first full month of January of 2020, not knowing what product to sell. And I sat there, and one day I was like messing around. I was like, "Man, we're pretty good at virtual assistants." So I wanted to order. I put a lot of money into my own education. I just said, "I'm going to do a deep search for virtual assistant education online." And I did a deep search, and I ordered all the books that anybody had for sale on virtual assistants. And I ordered them all in, and they came in, and I sat them down on the floor. I still remember this. I sat them down on the floor, and I started going through all these books on virtual assistants, and I discovered it was all crap. It was all, all this stuff on why virtual assistants are good, but no usable information on actually how to use the virtual assistants to benefit. I got through all these books, and I learned nothing at the end. And I told myself, "Man, my stuff is way better than this." And it hit me. That's the product I should probably sell. So the very first product that I sold in my real estate education business was all my systems and processes that I had built up over the years for my virtual assistants. Like the very step by step. You want to learn how to do this? Plug your VA. You don't even have to build the process. It's done for you. And I did that for a year. And I had somebody reach out to me one day, and he says, "Man, Matt, your freaking virtual assistant processes are one of a kind. Like they're the best I've ever seen. The problem is, Matt, I'm just lazy, and I don't want to do any of this stuff." He's like, "Can I just hire one of your VAs?" And I started thinking about it. I'm like, I guess we could do that. And that's how I started. That's how I began offering my VAs as a service for other investors. It was just that question that somebody asked. So I tell you all that because I used VAs for years before, 5 years before I ever offered it as a service. And then we've just exploded. So I didn't know if you wanted to ask us a specific question on that.
Well, I wanted to get into the service that you actually offer and what that structure looks like, so people know that you're a resource for the VAs. But before we jump into that, Kevin's highlighted a question from one of the viewers. How do you delegate tasks to VAs that require them to have access to financial information like credit card numbers, bank accounts, etc.?
You can enter. You can go set up let's say you're using a specific website that you want the VA to pull information off of or buy. And you can put your credit card number in there into that website when you set up your user, and it never displays the full credit card number to a VA. You can hide all your financial information. But I want to make something really important, visual for everybody. Let me just tell you something. I've had a lot of people steal money from me over the years, and all of them were American, not one virtual assistant. Americans will sit around and try to figure out how to put your money in their pockets. The VAs are not, and I'm not saying not every VA. There's definitely VAs probably out there that are criminals. I haven't run into any that have stolen any money. So I don't think that's as big of an issue as the Americans that are probably on your team. But
I totally agree, Matt.
Yep. But with that being said, you can hide all that information. When you think about this for a second, Chris, when you go to your Amazon account, go to your credit card information, it doesn't show all the numbers.
No. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how confident I am in my VAs. This will probably shock people, but so I do have a credit card, like an extra employee credit card, and I keep it at a low limit. So they don't really need to use it much. And I've never had an issue, not even one. They have access to QuickBooks. One of them does to bank accounts. It's view only. They can look at it. But my number one VA in the Philippines, she was buying a 16-unit apartment building from Gutter King Money. She was telling me about it, and some things changed at the closing. She needed 10 grand. She didn't ask me for it. I sent her $10,000. She paid me back over the next 6 months. I never thought for a second she wouldn't pay me. I didn't even charge her interest. That's how confident I am in her. I would not do that to an American employee. I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, you can, but Kevin's exactly right on the view only piece. If you have, like I have accounting, I have like 4 or 5 bookkeeping high level accountants that are all VAs on my team, and they'll blow an American out of the water.
Yep.
Not even close. Not even close. And they have view only access. And then I have, but here's the thing, guys. I it's not like I don't trust them. They don't need to move money, right? Yeah. They can send you an email that says, hey, I need you to pay this and transfer this to this account. Like you can just set that up for, if you're that untrusting of them, and maybe it's okay to be that way in the beginning, you can do that part, and you can just have them do the parts that are the bookkeeping type stuff.
What about passwords?
No, yeah, they don't. You can have a view only access login, right? So you can set all this up. You could set up to your bank. You could say, hey, here's everybody that's on my team that's going to have view access. You give them all their names and everything, and you could say nobody's allowed to set up a personal account at your bank that works for you. If you ever have an employee that doesn't bank at your bank, and then all of a sudden you hire them and they set up a personal account, that's a bad sign. And that's happened to me before. And the bank alerted me to it, not to a VA, of course, with American person. Mm-hmm. So you can set up all kinds of guys. If you just have a conversation with your bank, a lot of them are going to tell you all the security stuff that you can do that will protect you. But guys, you realize you can do background checks on VAs. We do it. So you can do a background check with a VA like you could an American. So if there's any criminal activity, you see it. Yeah. You can do all that stuff.
That's awesome.
And like anything, I would take it slow. You work on the view only, and you just keep adding it. It's not like I gave that VA $10,000 after knowing her for 4 months. It was multiple years at that point. Mm-hmm. And these people are incredible people. And Matt, what you were saying, how the bookkeeping, they'll run circles around. It's so true. Mm-hmm. They're like at another level. They're so hardworking. They're great people. And, we talk about hiring other employees. For me, like I like in the service business, if I have a good employee, I'll get him to get me another good employee. That's really snowballed for me. I mean, if they're a good VA, they're not bringing a half-ass VA at all. 100%. They'll train them. They want that person to have the opportunity that they had.
Yeah, 100%. And, we do that with a lot of our VAs too. You find a rock star. You don't ever ask first of all, an average person shouldn't be working for you, but if they are, never ask them for a referral, because you're going to get more of the same. You find a rock star, you can ask for referrals based around that rock star, and you'll get more of the same. It typically doesn't not work out.
In a nutshell, this is how basic it is. I'll just give it to you. You're going to pay less money for considerably better service, better work. That's 2 things. I mean, how can you not explore that? Considerably less money and considerably better employees. I mean, that's how I feel.
Let me just tell you, Kevin, you guys already know this. Americans are in trouble.
Yes.
When the world finds out, when entrepreneurs in America, and people still don't, the concept of virtual assistant is still very unknown. When they find out on a large scale, Americans are in trouble. Because typically, I like to say VAs are the Americans of the 1950s. They just want to come to work and do a good job and work hard all day. Americans now are lazy. The VAs will work circles around them. Americans are typically lazy, especially on the sales side. Our acquisitions VAs are crushing American. I always forewarn. I give a warning to anybody that comes to me that's got acquisitions teams. Like, hey, man, I want to grab one of your virtual acquisitions people. I say, fair warning, you probably won't have American acquisitions people on your team very long.
Wow.
So
I totally agree. I'll say to be this strong, and also what Matt's saying is so true. I think all these American, like these virtual jobs now, as soon as these companies get smart, you're going to see a mass exit of those jobs to the Philippines, India, coding, all kinds of jobs. These people who think they're real smart by not turning their camera on or getting 2 jobs at once, that's like a thing now on Reddit and TikTok. They're not going to like what this looks like in 3 years. They're going to be in big trouble.
With that being said, Kevin, too, guys, there's services for your VAs called Hub Staff. We check it every week. It's like $10 per VA per month, and Hub Staff keeps an eye on your VA, helps you keep an eye on them, does periodic screenshots of what you're looking at on your screen, gives you an idea of how much work percentage you've accomplished at the end of the week. And there's things called mouse movers that people think they're out Spartan people with. Somebody that gets on one of these services can get a mouse mover and it moves their mouse all the time. Yeah. Somebody has a mouse mover when their productivity is at 98%. That's an automatic red flag. That person's screwing you. Your productivity on screen activity should be in that 70% range in most cases. Some jobs are less if they're more on the phone than computer. But if somebody's using a mouse mover, it'll be at 90-something%. So we really like Hub Staff. It's a great way to keep track. It does time clocking, so they know when you clock in and clock out. We do have end of day reports. We do beginning, start of day reports. It's very easy to track and see the stats. In my opinion, it doesn't even come close to hiring Americans, and it's way cheaper on top of it. But even if it was the same money, even if it was the same cost, I would do it. I would still switch to virtual assistants.
Let me ask you a question, Matt, because I know my answer, and people are going to think this is bizarre. What if I told you, I know you were looking to buy a business. Say there was a business and it's an incredible deal. There's no brainer you want in on it. But I told you, you can buy this business, but you cannot use virtual assistants if you have that business. Would you even look at it?
I'm out.
I'm out too. No, thank you. I'm not doing it.
I'll buy an average.
I don't care what that business is. I'm not doing it.
Yep. I'll buy an average business with no VAs and plug in VAs in the first 90 days and build systems and processes and do $1 million more in revenue in the next 12 months.
I think that's extremely powerful coming out of both of y'all's mouths, because you're both extremely successful with multiple businesses, and the fact that's
why every time I look at businesses to buy, that's the first thing I'm thinking of. They never are using VAs. And when they're not, I already know what's going to happen to productivity, how we're going to increase sales. I'm going to build a VA team and it's going to kick ass. If I couldn't for some reason, I'm not even buying the business. No thanks.
Yeah. My brother was a machine. He works with my company now. He's been with me for about 1.5 years, and he worked in the machine shop business for 20 plus years. And we were always losing. He was losing jobs to China or to Mexico because they had cheaper labor. And he's like, I can't keep doing the business. I can't compete. Their labor's too cheap. He came over to me working for my business. And I said, Jeff, we hire virtual assistants in my business. He's like, what the heck's a virtual assistant? I explained to him. I said, imagine hiring somebody in China to run your machines to produce parts, but you don't have to, they're not actually in China. And I said, it's labor that's a fraction of the cost of American, better workers, more disciplined, more productivity, but way cheaper to do the work in America for what we're doing, because it just seems too good to be true. And in 90 days later, he's like, the virtual assistants is the best. It's the most, he starts thinking, man, when I was in the machine shop, if I had a VA doing this, I probably would have made a lot more money. But it's a unfair advantage. And I cannot believe more people don't know about it.
So let me ask you, let's put in a real world example, lawn care business.
Mm-hmm.
Where would we plug VAs at? What's your first thought process?
So if I bought a lawn care business tomorrow, here's what would happen. First of all, they probably don't have any VAs. First thing I would do is pull a list of every single home in that area that I work that the home was worth $250,000 or more. The reason I would do that is those people are making money. And you can slide this scale, but 250,000 or more, maybe it's 500,000. Those people don't mow their own grass. So what I would do is I would pull a list, I would skip trace that list, and I would hand that list off to a cold caller. And this would be people that just bought the house. Okay. They just closed in the last 30, 60 days. If it was in the winter, I would do the same thing for snow removal. But I would pull that list and we would create a script to call that homeowner and have a VA call that homeowner and see if they're, again, you have to do a niche script for every single type of business that you do this for. But essentially, they're calling the homeowner to see if they would like a quote to mow, have us come and weed eat, mow and clean up the grass clippings out of their driveway for a good price. If you did that, you would have more business than you could handle in probably 30 to 60 days. I had
I'll go even one step farther on them, Matt. I would do the exact same thing. And then I'd have them actually give them the price right there. They'd go on Google Earth. I'd show them with a video, a Loom recording, how I price it, give them some examples. They'd say, yeah, that'll be $48, $54. We can get you on the schedule. They do the DocuSign, everything. And I would just sit back.
Yep. I had a younger guy that owns a cleaning business reach out to me. He's like, man, I always see you talking about VAs. He's like, I own this cleaning business. I need more business. And he got with my team, got one of my cold callers. My team helped him build his script on what to call, which business is defined, how to talk to him when you call them and get opportunities to bid. After 45 days, he's like, I can't handle the leads. He outgrew his company in 45 days. He's like, I need to pause the service for a minute. I need to staff up and I need to absorb the work I just got. The same thing happened. I had somebody, of course, this happens all the time for me in real estate. But I know a lot of people on here aren't just real estate people, but I had somebody contact me that's a financial advisor and he wanted to reach out and talk to people that maybe I think it was 65 years old and they had to sign up for Medicare or whatever. And that's big business. And he put one of my VAs on. He made more money in the first 30 days with one of my cold callers than he was making over months and months and months of him trying to do it. And his time is worth, and it was a fraction of the cost. He got so many leads. He's like, I can't handle this. I got to be able to do the sales after they generate the lead. And he had to pause service too, because too many leads were coming in. He couldn't get to all the sales.
Yeah.
If I was starting I'm sitting here at my lake house, guys, I need my trees trimmed. Okay. I need my gutters cleaned. I had my neighbor over here. I have $1 million houses sitting all around me. My neighbor was having his tree trimmed. I walked outside, walked up to the tree trimmer and said, hey man, you want to hit my tree? Your equipment's already here. All you have to do is drive over here and hit them. I don't care about the price. Just hit it up. Just send me a bill. Nah, we're 6 months behind. I can't do it. I'm like, yeah, but your equipment's right here. Jeez. Yeah, but we're just busy. So what I would do if I had a tree trimming business, obviously Kevin's the master at gutters, but if I would just, every time a house, I would pull, you can buy any list you want. Any list is available. It doesn't matter what it is. Every time a house that had $400,000 sales price or higher in the last 30 days, every time that I would pull that list once a month, I would contact that person and say, I do tree trimming. You would get more business than you can handle because nobody does this stuff.
Nobody does.
I'm sitting here. I've needed my trees trimmed for a year and a half. I've never received one phone call from anybody to come and trim my trees. That means that nobody does this stuff. I have another house in Bettendorf, Iowa. Nobody's ever called to trim my trees. Nobody's ever called to clean my gutters. Guys, the people that have $1 million houses, they aren't trimming trees themselves. No, it's just not happening. If you just hire a VA, you can get whatever business you want. If you just create the parameters of the list. And I like recent sales. Another thing is I had we had spiders and stuff in here, and I hate freaking spiders, man. And I don't want them in my house. So I got a hold of my team. I'm like, can you call around and find somebody that can come here and spray? I don't care about the price. I just don't want the spiders. Right. And so they got a hold of a company, but I mean, nobody ever called me, and this was a national franchise. They never sent me anything to hire them. Imagine if you had a pest control company and you said every time a house closed in this area that was $500,000, you automatically called that company and says, hey, I've got this pest control company. We'd love to come out and give you a bid, or do one of the things that Kevin says, hey, we've got a first free inspection on your house to see if you need it. Hey, and we'll just come out for free and do a free consultation. I'm telling you, you would have to shut down the lead gen because you would have to hire more people to do the work.
Where are you pulling these lists from?
You can get lists from any way. There's a lot of list companies out there, you guys. You could go to List Source. You could go to I like a company called exactdata.com. Exact Data is not cheap, guys. But that company can, any list, if you dream it, they can get the list. I one time wanted a list of all the private jet owners in Chicago. So I pulled the list from exactdata.com. Great company. But you can go to Listability. I use DirectSkip for my real estate stuff. But list companies are all over the place, and you can define the parameters that you're looking for. And if guys, I'm just telling you, if it exists, the list is available. Once you get the list, you have to do a process called skip tracing because you don't have their phone numbers. Once you get that list, you can upload it into a skip tracing company, again, like DirectSkip, and then you'll get their cell phone numbers of the owner of that home. And then you can just load that into a dialer with your virtual assistant cold caller, for example, and then you just create a script and you start getting leads. I had one of my buddies, I know it's one of Kevin's buddies too, he bought a landscaping company, and he got a cold caller of mine to do the cold calling, but then he's like, man, I can't take all the sales. I need somebody to close the sales. So he got one of my acquisitions VAs to do that. In his first day, he made $1,700 profit on his landscaping business from my VAs, which, by the way, paid for the VAs for the month, that $1,700. So then he's like, the next day, he's like, I got 2 more jobs. Now it's like free money coming out of thin air.
Well, yeah, Brandon's going to be on our show in November. He's going to talk about his experience with you. He's had a great one. I messaged him on Friday night, like, hey, what's going on? You should do Christmas lights. Are you doing the gutter cleaning? And he was telling me how business is just like going so well. Yeah. And he was like, it's almost overwhelming. I can't keep up with the demand. I already know what he's doing. Yeah. One thing I always look at is, if my competitors do it, would it worry me? And that's what any of you guys who are thinking, I don't know if I'll do it, be worried if you're a landscaping company and they're doing it, because they're going to take a lot of your business.
Yeah.
I built it off virtual assistants. You know, I'm in half the country with the gutters, but my goal 9 years ago was I want every complex, apartment complex, condo complex, office complex that needs gutter cleaning to have been touched. Like I want them to tell me no. That's all I care. I don't care about the yeses. So I have these VAs just going. It's like 24/7. It's even on Christmas, because when it's Christmas here, Christmas is over there. And it just goes nonstop. And it's just a flow of leads nonstop. And they're doing the pricing of the complexes. They're doing the proposals. So I just look in the emails now. They answer all my emails. they highlight it with this orange when it's approved. I like to go in there at like 4 o'clock and just scroll up, and I see like approved, approved, approved. It feels really good when you're not even doing anything.
Yeah, that's how we have my my real estate wholesaling business. You know, I have cold callers and marketing VAs doing text message marketing, cold calling. That's bringing in leads. Those leads are then handled by a virtual lead manager that determines if it's a good lead or a bad lead. Once it's determined by a virtual lead manager, it's a good lead. It gets handed off to the acquisitions VA to actually do the negotiating, or actually do it. There's 2 calls that we do. The first call is just building rapport and discovery of the property. Then that gets handed back to the lead manager VA. She comes up with a max offer price. That gets handed back to the acquisitions person to do call number 2. They call the seller, negotiate the deal. Once the contract's signed, it gets handed off to Dispo VA. Dispo VA sells the property. And guys, I I have a mobile notary coming today for 2 deals at 4:00 at my house. I don't leave my house. I have to sign the docs. I do 2 meetings a week to check on things and keep an eye on KPIs. The rest of the business just runs on its own.
Hey, what was Sean's question? Sean Stipe, he's about to be my new partner on a roofing business. And yes, we will be going heavy with the VAs.
Yeah.
It's going to be in Cleveland. If you're a roofer out in Cleveland, you got a problem because we're going to have VAs on every building in there.
Y'all got me fired up. I'm over here just.
I'm going to teach him how to do it. Yeah, it's going to be great.
So all I see is Facebook user on my end, but I think his question was, what is an example of something not to use a VA for, or that is a mistake to use one for, if any?
Yeah. So first of all, a VA, anything that that has to be boots on the ground. If it's a physical person, has to be on that location. Obviously, the VA can't do it. From there, it's only dependent upon if it can be done behind a computer screen from an office location, it can be done by a VA. Yep. There's nothing left. So we have, like, my property management company, you guys, I actually had, I cut $1 million a year out of payroll by switching everything to VAs. Jeez. And I had a rule for a while there, a few years ago. It says, hey, anybody that leaves, anybody that quits or gets fired has to be replaced by a VA. And over time, everybody was replaced, and then there's nobody left. Guys, everything can be done. Even we don't even open our own mail anymore. So like, I had to figure out, okay, if nobody's at a physical location, you have to get mail, right? How do you open the mail and get the mail? Let's say I'm never at an office. We use a company called Earth Class Mail, and you reroute your mail through Earth Class. Then Earth Class opens the mail, scans it to you. You can even have them deposit checks. We do that too. So we never have to physically touch the mail, and it automatically gets processed through. A VA opens the mail. Or I'm sorry, after Earth Class opens the mail, the VA views the mail and determines which person in the company it should go to. They can just hit a link and view that piece of mail and decide. It really, I mean, guys, it's as creative as you can get. You can hand off basically anything. I haven't found anything that they can't do as long as it's not boots on the ground.
Hey, Matt, I want to ask you a random question, but I also want to tell you guys, we're going to put Matt's info in here and the links. But he gives discounts. He's going to give some discounts to Blue Collar Millionaire members. So for right now, just reach out to me in the direct message so I can let him know you're coming from us, and we'll get you that discount. But Matt, you have the dumpster rental business, right? Mm-hmm. How have you used them to that? Just we'll give another example.
Yeah, so I have basically you can do a couple of different ways. We use cold callers and sales VAs, but like yesterday, we decided to start calling businesses that have dumpsters at their location that basically stay there all the time. So we pulled a list of department stores, right? Because department stores have dumpsters. We pulled a list, contacted them, and got 2 leads to place our dumpsters. We did the same thing for roofers. We like roofers in the dumpster business because they fill a dumpster quickly in one day and then they're done. So we pull a list of roofers in the area, skip trace and contact, and then we get sales just on the spot from that. But yeah, I mean, you can, again, any list, all you have to do is be able to describe the list that you want, go to a list company, be able to pull that list, be creative with what it is you're looking for. When I had the dumpster business, think about it. Okay, I pulled a list of every property management company in my area. They do clean outs, right? You can get business from that. I did the roofers, general contractors, builders, and you can just fill up your business to the point where my brother runs that business. He's like, hey, you can't, like, I don't want you to, we need to order more dumpsters before we push the business any further. So yeah, man, I mean, if you can buy the list, if you can describe the list and buy the list and skip trace it, you've got instant leads.
Yeah. It's pretty simple. Chris, you know that, like, I just looked at that. Remember I gave you that list. It's about 350 names.
Oh, dude, I'm about to go look
at it. Who's doing some videos for us. He's in the Philippines. He's a great guy. I asked him, go grab a list of apartment complex kind of with emails for Chris. He gives it to him the next day. And I mean, if you imagine you just have him with a template emailing, and then you have the people calling, hey, can we bid on the restoration jobs, everything, you'll get so much business because there's no other restoration guy in your area, Mississippi, that's doing that. They're not.
No, the problem I see with all of this is the boots on the ground, and just being able to follow up with the sales you're making. There
Yeah.
should never be a sales problem on
Yeah.
any business with the VA play.
The follow up on the sales, that's can be done with a VA, but you're right, Chris. Like if your bottleneck right now is leads and sales, or maybe profit margins, because the more leads you get, the higher profit margins you can push. Then you can easily solve that with a VA. If it's the service that be carried out, if the service has to be carried out by a physical person on location, then you would spend all your time. And again, we do this with VAs, where you would spend all your time adding those contractors and interviewing those contractors to be able to do the work. And again, that can be done with VAs.
Do you help people with their interview process? Because I know since you're hiring VAs, you've got a very good process down. I feel like that same process can be done, almost duplicated for your boots on the ground type of people.
Sure.
To be able to build that boots on the ground, because that's definitely the bottleneck for me at my company at the moment.
Yeah, we have a what's called a hiring guide. It basically teaches you how to build the templated ad you should be placing. It teaches you what personality styles work with the best types of people that you're trying to hire. But yeah, I mean, we try to process out everything that we do, and you got to hire, you got to hire really good people that are boots on the ground people too. Otherwise, that's going to be a weak link in the chain,
But Chris, the other thing is, which services do you have that are maybe high profit that you could price without going there? Do you have any? I specifically looked for one, like gutter cleaning. We do it on Bing Maps, Google. We have some software. I never go to these complexes ever. I can do a better job like that and teach them how to do it. Are there services you can price? So then the first time we go to this complex we're making money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would change it all if I had to drive there.
Air duct cleaning is a great service, because
you could do it with that.
Yeah, we're above a $500 ticket to a $1,500 ticket on a residential house. So if you get above that in size, it gets, on the commercial level, it gets really nice.
Chris, imagine if you're pulling these lists, skip tracing them, and then texting them about some spring special on dryer vent cleaning on all these houses, 450,000 and over. You get a ton of work.
I could buy a duct truck instead of having a portable machine.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, again, I know, Kevin, you're the genius behind what you do is you're doing these condo complexes, which are, they have money, right? They have to do it right. People are paying them an HOA fee. They have to do it right. So you can, the genius behind that is the value in which that building is worth in order to get higher paying customers. If somebody's out there right now doing tree trimming and they're knocking on doors of $100,000 houses, and you don't need to do that. Just pull a list of more expensive homes and focus on the more expensive homes. And I love the people that just closed, because they might be relocating from another area and they don't know anybody yet. But if they just upgraded from their house and they're looking to get, there's so many things to do when you move into a new house, and you can get overwhelmed. And if some service calls you, which nobody ever does, you can just make a killing on that stuff.
Matt, I'm sure, Chris, we all are. We have a million ideas, right? I got a good idea every day. But what I love about VAs is I keep a file of my ideas. Then every Saturday morning, I look at them. I don't do work, and I develop the best one, and I hand it off to a VA to do. Here's an idea that I would never do myself because it would be time consuming. But I've taught VAs, one in particular, how to find budgets for condominium associations. He can go in there, see what they're paying for gutter cleaning. We know they're using the service, and then we find their email and contact, and we say, hey, I know somebody who used to live there. They said you were paying $4,800 for the gutter cleaning. I think you're really overpaying. I would love to bid on it. We take ones all the time like that. That's like a nothing idea, but when you're in as many states as I am, I have about 150 complexes just for doing that. You're not going to do that yourself. It's time consuming. But I can put a young guy on there. Yeah, he would spend like a week doing that for me every year. It's
an unfair advantage, it's just, and then you start, once the world once you step into this universe, you never come out. And you just get up, like Kevin, you have so many ideas because you know the potential of it, and you spend Saturdays making those ideas into money. Anybody that starts with VAs, you just start looking at like, whoa, I can't believe, like, guys, even me, I was using VAs from 2015, and you know, it took me a little bit of time to really understand the true potential of what you can do. And now it's opportunity overload. I have to decide, like I told my brother, like, we should be in pest control, we should be in gutter cleaning, we should be in tree trimming, we should be in all these different businesses, because we can start them tomorrow and have more leads than we can handle. Or I could just say, hey, I'll just go find somebody really good at tree trimming that needs leads, and I'll just hire the VAs to generate leads and send them a business. You send me a cut, give me 10%, and I'll overfill your schedule. You know, there's so many ways to step into the middle of that.
That's the play right there, Matt, is just leveraging someone else's already business plan that doesn't have the sales. And that's what I like about your stuff, Kevin, is because you didn't build out teams in every state that are W-2. You brought in contractors, 1099 them, and just fill them with leads. And
we talk to the contractors. My VAs talk to the contractor on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
They email them all the rates, the jobs, and if there's issues, we got a hotline. They text them. I'm totally out of it. Mm-hmm. They know more about the business. I mean, there's two in particular. They know more than I do at this point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like about every client and everything. It's really it's game changing. Matt, it's totally right. Once you do it, you cannot go back.
Mm-hmm. I even trained. And we have a maintenance coordinator that's a VA that would, with the right, anybody can do this if you build out the right training, but my maintenance coordinator, he can get a call on a furnace, like, hey, the tenant calls, like, hey, I've got, my furnace isn't working. He troubleshoots over the phone. So we've taught him what to ask. Hey, have you checked your furnace filter? And I mean, we do that for everything. And I'll put my maintenance coordinator up. I don't care if you have Bob Vila taking your calls on your maintenance team, he'll outperform. And he lives in a third world country with no furnace in his house, and probably, hot water doesn't even work the same. Like, their mechanicals are just built differently over there. But with the right training, you can teach him to do anything,
And if you're not stirred after this interview.
And one other thing is, a lot of people think, oh, they're going to sound funny on the phone. Americans aren't going to want to talk to them. It's not true. It's nonsense.
I got a voice text today. I won't mention the guy's name, but he is a powerhouse in the industry. I sent it to my team. He's like, Matt, I just cannot believe it. This guy flips land. He's like, I can't believe it. I can't believe their English. I can't believe what they've done. He made over 50 grand his first 30 days with my VAs. He's like, you've completely changed. He's like, and he even says in the voice text, I used VAs in my business. I wasted years and years and years because he wasn't doing it right. He wasn't building the correct processes. I wasted years and years and years and tens of thousands of dollars. And now it's just money coming in. So you got to do it right, guys. You got to do it right.
Absolutely. Man. And get people who are grateful to have the work. They're great people. I love to see, I always ask them about, they're building houses. They show me the videos. I love watching them. Their lives improve. They're incredible. I just give them an opportunity. They run with it. But these are great, really bright people, and they'll make you look good. That's what I told one of them. Your job is to make me look good. She's always fixing mistakes I do. She has all the info.
I call that removing complexity. Their job is to remove complexity out of my life.
But give me my time back and make me look good. I like that. Remove complexity. That's a good one. Matt, it was awesome having on here. Let's drop your info in here in the comments. This is a no-brainer. I mean, I don't say that many times. It's a no-brainer. People who used to ask me about making money. I say, here's 3 things you can't lose money on. You buy a cargo van. I don't know if you buy a used cargo van. There's so many things you can make money on. You cannot lose money. You buy a ladder for $300. You cannot lose money. And if you hire a VA and you train them right, you cannot lose money. Mm-hmm. That one might be the strongest. It would be almost impossible if you actually gave effort and worked with them and showed them the process to lose money. I mean, I don't know who's ever lost money on a VA and did that.
So, Kevin, I want to put in the comments, maybe put my virtual assistant website, which is just rapidassistance.com, rapidassistants. So it's assistant as in a personal assistant. So rapid assistance with an S at the end.com. But here's the thing, Kevin, like I'm giving all the blue collar millionaires, because of you and I's relationship, I'm giving them a really big discount on the placement fee. So like, don't get like, I don't want anybody to go to my site and like, oh man, these placement fees are really expensive. I don't know if I can afford this. Obviously guys, we just did we can show you how to get your money back really fast. But also if you go through and you see somebody that you want and you think I can help, just reach out to Kevin. And I want to make sure that I know you came from the blue collar group so that I can get you that discount. If the average person comes off the street, they don't get that discount. So just make sure that you mention Kevin's name or blue collar millionaires, and we'll make sure we get you taken care of, guys.
Absolutely. Matt, thank you so much for coming on today. I don't know if Chris got knocked off.
Yeah, I'm here, man. Appreciate you.
It was a pleasure having you on, and we'll be reaching out to you soon as well.
All right, guys. Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy it. We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
All right, bye.